Okay, you can begin.
Good evening and welcome to our audience. My name is Joel Cope and I serve as one of the members of the board for the Mableton Improvement Coalition. This evening's forum is being organized by our partner organization, the Austell Community Taskforce, as well as the Mableton Improvement Coalition. And I want to thank them both for their friendship as well as their dedication to our community. And I want to welcome you to our candidate forum featuring those candidates who've qualified for office for either mayor or city council. And we think you're going to find this to be both an interesting and informative forum. Now, you may have seen the previous candidates forums that our organizations held back on February 13th. If you've not done so, I would urge you to please go on our website at www.mableton.org or the Austell Community Task Force website and watch and listen to candidates who participated on that particular evening. I'd also like to thank all of you, the listening audience, for caring enough to attend and be part of this discussion tonight. After all, you could be out celebrating the last night of Mardi Gras or doing some other activity, but you chose to be here with us, and we appreciate that. We cannot stress enough that our respective organizations are nonpartisan and do not support any candidate or any political party whatsoever. And tonight, we introduce to you and thank those candidates who have stepped up and qualified for the offices of Mableton City Council Districts number 4 and number 6, as well as the office of mayor. These are your neighbors and fellow residents. Every single candidate that declared his or her intent to run was invited to participate in this forum, and that invitation was extended multiple times through varied means of communication based on that information provided by the candidates themselves. Therefore, if you do not see someone on the dais tonight that you know is running for political office, it may be due to a candidate's conflict or their choice, but not due to a lack of invitation by our respective organizations. Of course, we want to thank Janine Evler, who is the director of the Cobb County Election and Registration Department. We're very fortunate in having her with us tonight because she has graciously given of her time to be with us for a few minutes at the beginning of this program to answer some voting questions. To the best of my knowledge, this forum is the only forum where all the candidates who are running for mayor and city council will be together in one platform. For our organizations, it is critical this forum tonight be a place where the candidates can present to you, the voters, the reasons why he or she should earn your vote. This forum will not be permitted to devolve into name calling or casting aspersions. To that end, if anyone does engage in these methods, we've shared with each person the offending parties will be temporarily muted. We want this forum to appeal to the better angels of our nature and not one where it devolves into a race to the bottom, so to speak. Now, as you know, when you register for this forum, you had the chance to submit a question for the candidates. We received many fine questions, but due to the limited amount of time we have tonight for our forum, we may not be able to get to all those questions that were submitted to us. We don't want anybody in our viewing audience to think that they should be upset or distressed in some way if your questions don't get asked. We simply want to put that disclaimer out there. In addition, on the MIC website, I believe there's, and also the ACT social media pages, there are videos of most of the candidates who are running for office, be they mayor or city council. Nate Smith and Robert Meyer worked hard in conjunction with our candidates to make these video links possible. We encourage you to go online and review these videos after the forum is over, of course. And we want to remind you of a few critical dates. The last day to register to vote is today, February 21st. Early voting begins on February 27th, just 6 days from today, and the actual election is going to be March 21st. In addition, if you have any questions whatsoever as to whether or not you're in the new city of Mableton and can vote for these candidates you see on the screen, please call the Cobb County Board of Elections at 770-528-2581 or go to the My Voter page. Please do not assume that you cannot vote simply because the post office lists your address as Austell or Smyrna. Now, MIC is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with 11 board members and has existed since 2001. Today, we're involved in a whole host of subject areas, and we are like zoning and community gardening, parks, the Mableton Farmers Market, and this issues forum we have tonight. And we obviously would like to have you to join our organization or that of the Austell Community Task Force, because our groups thrive and do better when we have support from members of the community like yourselves. Let me turn to my colleague, Dante Philpott, for the Austell Community Task Force.
Thank you, Joel. And I won't take up too much of your time because really I'm not the star of the show. The candidates are. But first and foremost, thank you guys over at MIC, especially Joel, for the collaboration and putting this together for the benefit of the community. Again, we thank you, the listening audience or the viewing audience, because you could have been doing a number of different things this evening, but you chose to be here. You chose to participate, and you chose to engage in this process. And we thank you for that. We thank each and every candidate from the previous forum and tonight's forum for putting yourself out there. We do know and understand that running for public office is not an easy task. You leave yourself open to a lot of criticism and so on and so forth. So we thank each of the candidates for putting themselves out there and wanting to do the best job for the community and wanting to represent their respective communities. So I will say that for myself, again, my name is Dante Philpott. I'm a sitting board member for the Austell Community Task Force. In the Austell Community Task Force, it is a resident-led, community-based umbrella organization that was founded in 2001. We have a number of different initiatives, everything from community development to economic development to zoning, so on and so forth. So I encourage each and every last one of you guys, from the candidates to the listening and viewing audience, if there's something that speaks to you this evening or from the previous forum to where you feel like, hey, I want to be engaged in the process and I want to be engaged with the community, I want to make sure that regardless of who wins or whatever the outcome is, I want to be involved with the community. I want to see this community be the best that it can possibly be. I encourage each and every last one of you guys to reach out to Mableton Improvement Coalition, as well as Austell Community Task Force. And if you find something that you really find your niche and you say, hey, I really gravitate towards XYZ, then hey, do that, be involved, make a difference, because I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that either of the organizations, we are not going to turn away anyone that wants to volunteer and pitch in and lend a hand in the community. That's not a problem that we have right now. Hopefully you guys will help us get to that problem, but we'll wait till we get that across that bridge. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Joel, and we'll go ahead and get started with our first section.
All right. Well, the first item for this evening's program will be to talk to Ms. Janine Evler, who, as I mentioned earlier, is the director of the Cobb County Election Registration Department. And thank you, Ms. Evler, for joining us this evening to kind of talk about some of the election protocols before we get into the candidates. So we're going to, Dante and I will take turns asking you a couple of questions that I think will be of general interest to the voters out there that are specifically in the new city of Mableton. One is, where is my polling location and how will I find it where it is?
So the voters will go to their regular polling location. We haven't made any municipal polling location changes yet, but they can find that location on the My Voter page. The only polling location change we have made is those voters who were at the Freeman Pool Senior Center. Since there was water damage in the last storms, they have been changed to Bethany United Methodist Church.
All right, thank you. Dante?
All right. Another question that the community wants to have answered is, what will be the wording on the ballot?
So the ballots will just have Mableton mayor and a list of candidates, and city council and a list of candidates. And each voter will have just the council race that is the district that they're in.
Perfect. Thank you.
And will the county be running the election for the city of Mableton on March 21st, as well as a runoff, if a runoff happens?
Yes, the County Board of Elections has been chartered to do that in the legislation. And so we will be conducting both the March 21st election and any required runoffs on April 18th.
Okay. When is the deadline to register to vote?
That's actually today, as Joel mentioned, and any registration changes that you need to do, if your address has changed, if you have a name change or any changes that you need to make, you can do that today on the My Voter page. There is a place to update your voter registration record. And as long as it's done before midnight today, it's part of the deadline. So it will meet that requirement for this election.
Thank you.
All of the voters across the district, across the city, had the exact same ballot, or it differed depending on what district he or she is in?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, they will have just their own council race for the district that they live in. They'll all have the mayor race, and then they'll have just the district council district race that they live in.
Okay.
All right. And when will the elected members take office?
Well, the legislation that was signed off and approved, it does say that they take office immediately. That's not usually the case. Usually, an elected official takes office on the first of the next year. But being that this is a brand new city and there is no incumbent, I suppose that the legislators decided that they would just take office immediately.
And what are the different methods by which voters in the new city of Mableton will be able to cast a ballot this year, whether it be absentee or early voting or regular voting?
Right. So as usual, this is no different. We'll have three methods that you can vote. You can apply for an absentee mail ballot, and you have until March 10th to do that. And as soon as we receive that application, we will be processing it, letting you know that it is a accepted application, and then ballots begin to be mailed out on Monday, the 27th, just like the next form of voting, which is early in-person voting. That also begins on the 27th and it goes through March 17th. And for early in-person voting, we'll have two locations. We'll be at the Mabel House Arts Center and at the South Cobb Community Center. And so you just go during the voting hours. There will be voting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the weekdays. And we will be open from 9 to 5 on the 2 Saturdays, which is the March 4th and 11th. And there's no Sunday voting in this election. So that's two ways to vote. And the third way is on election day. On election day, you do have to go to your assigned polling place, and that is on March 21st. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. that day as well.
Okay.
Perfect. So next question is, how long will their terms be for the mayor and city council seats?
I wrote that down. Let me see. The mayor and 1, 3, and 5 council districts, if I have that correct, are 4-year terms, and 2, 4, and 6 are 2-year terms to start out. And that way that establishes a staggered election cycle. So then in 2 years, in 2025, the 2-year terms will be up and the next slate will have 4-year terms. So at that point, it'll be every 2 years, it'll be the mayor and 1, 2, and 3 council. And then on the other 2-year cycle will be 2, 4, and 6.
Perfect. Thank you.
One last question, Ms. Evler. Is there any question that you've been hearing a lot from the voters who've been reaching out to your office that we have not covered here tonight that you think would be a benefit to the voters in the city of Mableton?
I think it's just more or less people are curious about whether they are in the city or not. Of course, that's the big question. People weren't aware of the boundaries of the city in the referendum election that was held last November. So the map that we have out on the cobbcounty.org website is a really good GIS map that you can put your address in, and it'll find where you are if you're in the shaded area for the city. And people that are eligible for this election and who have been moved into the city of Mableton can have addresses that say Mableton, Austell, Powder Springs even, and some Smyrnas, also some Mariettas. So if your mailing address is not your city, that is what the U.S. Postal Service uses. That is a nearby city that helps them find your address and deliver your mail. But that's not the boundaries that was in this legislation to create this city. So it's really important that people who may be in that area at all, maybe everybody in District 4 Commission District might want to check just to be sure. And you can check on the My Voter page, like we mentioned earlier, and you look on the My Elected Officials and Districts tab, and then you can look at all your elected officials, including whether you're in the city of Mableton. And then, as I said earlier, looking on the GIS map that's on cobbcounty.org, and that way you'll know for sure. And anybody that thinks they should be in the city and they don't believe that they are, should contact our office if there's any reason that the information they're seeing online is of question, that they believe it's one or the other wrong. We'll be happy to research it and make sure that you're either in or out of the city.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Everett, for your time tonight and for all the service you give to the Cobb County voters and citizens. Thank you very much for that.
A pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Ms. Evler. We truly appreciate it. You probably don't get enough of that, so we'll try to give you as much as you can handle for however long that you're on.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. At this time, we will call up Mr. Dickens, who is running for City Council District 6 in the new city of Mableton. Mr. Dickens, if you will please turn on your video. All right. Wonderful. So at this point in time, Mr. Dickens, you have 1 minute in order to make an opening statement. Please pay attention to the timekeeper so he'll let you know when you've run out, and then we'll begin the question and answers from the community.
Hi, my name is Ricky Dickens. I'm running for District 6. I'm running because I'm concerned resident, parent, homeowner. I want to be a part of the decision-making of this new city. My major background has been in military contracting. I've been in the Cobb County area since 1991. I moved over in the Austell area 5 years ago. I'm looking forward to being a part of the greatness that this city could be. Thank you.
Thank you. Dante, the first question.
All righty. So, Mr. Dickens, this is the Q&A portion, so you have the opportunity to speak directly to the questions that the community is asking. So, first question that the community is asking is, tell us about the decision that you made to run for this position and what qualifies you to hold this office.
The decision I made to run for this office was to, as I said in my opening statement, is to be a part of the decision-making and making sure we are represented correctly. What qualifies me, this would be my first council position, but I have been your Georgia State Security Manager. That is for the Department of Defense. So I am reliable, I am responsible, and I am trustworthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens.
Thank you, sir.
Joel, to you, sir.
Yes, one of the functions of this new city will be waste management. What plans do you have to implement this if elected?
I'm sorry, say that once more.
One of the functions of the new city will be waste management. What plan do you have to implement this if you are elected?
Well, one of the things I like to do is first find out who would be the most efficient. Notice we have a lot of waste companies in the area that goes to the different divisions, but to actually find out who would be the most efficient in handling it, the company, hopefully individually, like BFI, possibly, and get better educated on what we could do with that.
Thank you very much, sir. Dante?
All righty. So the next question is, tell us about the top 2 or 3 issues that uniquely impact your district and the specific proposals that you've developed to solve them.
The 3 things that impact my area, mainly is the growth of the area, for one thing, traffic congestion, crime, and the concern of taxes. When it comes to the traffic congestion, I would love to have a sit-down talk with the DOT manager, look over what they've already have in place, because the last time I looked, they did not have a main vein where all the construction is going out on Floyd Road. I would like to clarify that and make some adjustments, as I do believe that's going to be a very congested bottleneck area. I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Any specific proposals that you've developed to solve the top 2 or 3 issues? in the bit of time that you have left?
Yes, was to, like I said, get with the DOT manager, go over the plans they already had. When a lot of the construction was going up, I was one of the people that went down to Cobb County to try and stop some of the
Time.
development.
That's your time, Mr. Dickens. We'll go, Joel, we'll go to you for the next question, sir.
Mr. Dickens, do you believe in a robust code enforcement plan for the city of Mableton? And if so, what do you see as the most troublesome violations that you witness as you drive around the city?
I do believe in a robust system. However, I don't think that's something we should probably take on in the beginning. The violations I see as I ride around the city is a lot of the problems is trash. And another problem is when I ride around the city is seeing where people have demonstrated a lot of donuts and just what do you call it, driving and being a disturbance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dickens. Dante?
Perfect. And let's go to the next question. Next question here is, what steps will you take to preserve the green space that the city will take over?
Well, not just myself, but I and the council will devise a plan to hopefully turn a lot of the areas, the parks, and some places that are not parks into viable green space for children, for elderly, for ourselves. We'll do this through really dissecting where the city is going to be and what would be the best place to install these green spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, Joel.
All right. Have you personally signed a de-annexation petition or encouraged other voters to do so?
I have not. I'm not encouraged and I've not signed. I myself, no, I have not.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Dante?
Sure. Next question will be, do you believe in a robust code enforcement plan for the city? And if so, what do you see as the most troublesome violations that you see as you drive around the city?
I do. Code violations, again, goes back to the enormous amount of trash that is distributed throughout the city. I go in my own subdivision as well as others, and I see where people have actually taken whole garbage bags and tossed out in the middle of the street. As a matter of fact, I saw that today, a full black garbage bag where someone just tossed right out in the middle of the street. I think the communities need to get involved. I think that we all need to get together and devise a way that we can look out for that and change that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Dickens, this question from the community. What are your plans for the parks facilities that the new city will inherit from Cobb County?
What is my plans for the
Parks facilities that the city will inherit from Cobb County once the city is up and running?
Well, I would hope to keep the park facilities open, making improvements as we go along. The park facilities right now that I've seen have looked in pretty good shape, but we always need to have a good maintenance plan and an ideal to always extend it out. I think parks are really big and good. They're really a big part of our community. I think a lot of people go there for serenity, the kids to play, of course, but I would hope to keep the facilities running and up to maintenance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dante?
Perfect. Give me just a second. I just want to grab this question here. All right, so This question from the community is, what is your vision for serving the underprivileged and marginalized in the new city?
One of the things I like to do with the underprivileged is bring in more jobs, bring in more facilities to help people that are underprivileged, the homeless as well, maybe even build, if possible, build some shelters somewhere around the edges of Mableton itself. And I don't think we have any here, but we have a high number of low income and a high number of homeless people. So I think it's a responsibility of the city to try and help those people. Thanks.
Thank you. Back to you, Joel.
And I think this may be our last question of you, Mr. Dickens, but if the residents have a private trash company with whom they're very pleased or happy, do you believe that residents should be allowed to opt out of any plan that the city puts together for waste management? Why or why not?
Well, I think that would depend on the effect of the city. Having a lot of big trucks traveling in the same area tears up the road, especially in the subdivisions. I would like for everybody to have what they want, but again, it goes back to the effect that it has on that area. You're gonna have some people that may want to stay with the trash people they have, but that's one big truck. If you have 2 or 3 different oversized vehicles coming in and out of subdivisions, it won't be long before the streets are gonna need maintenance. So I'm not against it, but again, it depends on what the effect is as a whole on the streets and the neighborhood. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dickens, for taking time to share your vision with the voters tonight and for answering questions. We appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
And Joel, good evening, sir.
And really quick, Joel, let's just clarify that Ricky Dickens, is not running unopposed for his city council seat.
Yes, that is correct. Excellent point. Thank you for clarifying that, Dante. It's a great point. At this point, we're now going to bring up the candidates for City Council District 4. So for those candidates who are running for District 4, if you please would turn your cameras on. Right. And as you heard before, everyone will have a 1-minute opportunity to share an opening statement with the voters here this evening. And then we'll go into the Q&A portion of the program. Dante, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Let's see. We're going to mix it up a little bit. So let's start with Ms. Moore.
Good evening, everyone, family, friends, and neighbors. My name is Shaniqua Moore, and I'm running for City Council in District 4. A little bit about myself. I grew up in a single-family household where I learned the value of education, hard work, and service, and I've spent my entire life in community and in government. Mableton needs a skilled leader, someone with boots on the ground experience that has worked with children, families, and seniors, and who has weathered the storm that small businesses face. As a master licensed social worker, I understand how to connect with people from all walks of life. And as a problem solver, I am here to help you and to build our community up. I will roll my sleeves up and never give up on our children, our families, and our seniors. My heart is here, and this is our future for our families. I'm ready to serve you. I'm ready to serve you as your city council member. I will make sure you are always heard, respected, and valued, and that you have a leader in your corner who genuinely cares. So if you're ready for and want more, vote for me on or before March 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. And let's go next to Ms. Anthony.
Good evening, Mableton residents and family, friends, and voters. Again, my name is Dr. Jennifer Anthony. I am running for City Council District 4 and very excited and humbled at this opportunity. As a leader, a servant leader over 20 years, I have been a middle school teacher and I'm currently an assistant principal. So I have the opportunity in a middle school to lead over 1,000 people every day, 100 staff workers and communities. So it is with a humbled privilege that I am able to run for office. I think when I think of Mableton, I think about it being the next economic and cultural hub that it should be for the biggest city in Cobb County. If you want a passionate leader, a transparent leader, and a visionary, I am definitely your candidate. And again, excited and humbled to represent you.
Thank you. And next, let's go to Mr. Pendleton.
Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank the Mableton Improvement Coalition and the Austell Community Taskforce for hosting these candidate forums, especially you, Joel, and you, Dante. Thank you for taking your time out to do this for us, giving us the opportunity to speak and the opportunity to be heard. To my fellow candidates and everyone watching this evening, hello and thank you for being here. My name is Rob Pendleton. I'm running for City Council in District 4, where I've lived now coming up on 5 years. My background is in the film industry, where I get to work every day with hundreds of people, representing them, organizing them, and just representing them. I'm excited about the opportunities that cityhood presents to our community, and I'm dedicated to getting to work for you starting on day one. I have a bold vision for what the city of Mableton can become, and will work tirelessly with the mayor and my fellow city councilors to bring that vision into reality. A Mableton that works for everyone. I'm looking forward to answering the questions presented tonight, so you may get to know me better as your candidate in District 4 and to earn your vote on March 21st. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Ms. Dassinger.
Good evening. I'm Heidi Dassinger, and Mableton matters. And what should matter most to voters is that I am the only candidate who works for city government. For the past 10 years, I have served as the business development manager for Marietta Power and Water. I routinely interact and work with Cobb County government on development projects. I've held leadership roles in business management for 30 other years and elected leadership roles in significant volunteer service all my life. Owned a small business for 15 years, and my late husband was an attorney for several cities. We are now the largest city, and Mableton will matter more to Cobb County than ever before. I am able to bring levels of importance to the table in establishing this very diverse city. I'm able to be transparent with you, a consensus builder with the council and the mayor, and a voice of strength in working with the county and other cities to efficiently establish and run a city that matters.
Thank you very much. And next, we'll go to Mr. Patrick.
Let me start off by thanking Joel. Thank you, Dante. Thank all the candidates and thank everyone for watching tonight. Each of us are here asking you to hire us for an important position that determines a lot with your family. We're asking for the responsibility to run your city. I do so as a successful business owner and a former manager and director within many local and large organizations. We're asking to talk and be your voice at the negotiation table. I do so having negotiated in boardrooms, Fortune 500 companies, as well as in the public sector. And we're asking to manage your business and your money. I do so having managed multi-million-dollar budgets for 15 years. The person that you elect, they're going to need to be focused on this job. And if you elect me, it'll be my full focus. I hope to earn your vote, tonight. And I hope to serve you well for years to come.
Thank you. And next, we'll go to Ms. Brown.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Cassandra Brown, and I am running for Mableton City Council because I've been in this community for 20 years. My family and I came here in 2002, and we're not going anywhere. It's our forever home. And so to that end, I'm running because I want to ensure that Mableton is off to the best possible start and that we become the best city that we can possibly be. And so to that end, I have a platform that's fairly simple. It involves efficient delivery of the 4 services that Mableton will be undertaking. Also, I want to ensure that we have an ethical and transparent government for our citizens. And then finally, that we are practicing smart growth and planning principles for the future. In terms of my professional experience, I'm employed by Microsoft today in sales. Before that, I spent 20 years at a local company called CETA. And in that particular role, I managed large contracts with companies like FedEx, with Delta.
Ms.
Oh,
Brown, we have to
sorry.
stop you. We
Oh,
have to
sorry.
stop you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Graham?
Good evening, everyone, friends, neighbors, people of Mableton. My name is Robert Graham, and I'm your candidate for Mableton City Council District 4. As the only candidate with a background in public safety, I've been entrusted by our community and other neighboring communities for the past 15 years to respond to emergencies and care for our people in their time of need. I now ask that you put your trust in me to represent our community on the Mableton City Council. My message is simple: reasonable, responsible leadership, good stewardship of our city, its resources, and our community. No new taxes, no loss of services, and ultimately keep our neighborhoods safe and a good place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Thank you, candidates. Joel, I'll turn it over to you. We can start the Q&A.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, as Dante has indicated, now we're going to begin asking questions of the candidates that have been submitted to us by the public. And the first question is this, and I guess we will direct this first question to Ms. Anthony. This question says this: to what specific volunteer or leadership work can you point that you have done, not in other places in Cobb County, but right here in the Mableton that you hope to govern, so that voters could see that experience and those leadership skills?
Perfect. So I've done some work with Keep Cobb Beautiful. I am also a member of a Greek organization, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And through that organization, obviously, there's a lot of reach out activities where I've had to work with different students in the South Cobb area, including Pebblebrook and McEachern High School. Again, also just with my own personal job, being a school administrator, having that opportunity to also work with other organizations, including nursing homes and things of that nature. So there is a plethora of opportunities that I've had within Cobb County as well.
Thank you very much. Same question to you, Mr. Pendleton.
Yes, so outside of Mableton, yes, I have done volunteer work and worked inside of the community. Inside of Mableton, I have been in contact with the Mableton Improvement Coalition. I've spoken with the president. I've brought some ideas to the table. I wanted to participate in the farmers market, which unfortunately wasn't able to work out last year. And hopefully they'll get that back on the ground this year. And we had talked about me working in the film side of things, getting some campaign videos and everything shot to show the events and the community events that Mableton Improvement Coalition does through the community.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Same question to you, Mr. Graham.
I've done a lot of work throughout communities, not just limited to Mableton or Cobb County. Most recently, myself and my team of EMTs and paramedics have done food drives, partnering with local food banks with canned goods, non-perishables, donating those to the area, utilizing our resources as not only members of public safety, but just neighbors and people in the community. Additionally, work with a small group that helps build ramps for the elderly and otherwise mobility limited people that help them get in and out of their homes through temporary or permanent disabilities. And that's something that's incredibly important for them, reaching doctor's appointments, physical therapy, so on and so forth. Going further back, done a good amount of work with helping food banks with preparing meals for the homeless and otherwise needy and hungry, and just participating in that. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, just to repeat for the audience, the question is, to what specific volunteer or leadership work can you point that you've done not in other places in Cobb County, but right here in the Mableton area where you hope to govern, so that voters could see that experience and those leadership skills. Would you take that question, Ms. Brown?
Thank you, Joel. I certainly will. So some of my experience specific to Cobb County is with the Brookmere Homeowners Association on serving on the board here, also serving on the architectural review panel as well. Additionally, I've been a volunteer with the Riverline Historic District, doing some cleanup at parks and also being a representative for my subdivision. And then I might add that I do serve on the board of Students Without Mothers, which is a metro-wide organization that serves Cobb County as well. And in that regard, I've raised over $50,000 for students for their college education. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Patrick.
My heart's work is in a nonprofit that I founded in 2020. It's for mental health. It's called Beyond Broken. My wife in 2020 passed away from suicide, and it's a suicide prevention, mental health awareness nonprofit. We've worked with people in Cobb County, in the city, outside of the city, partnering them with therapists who can help them, handling calls from people who feel like they have suicide ideation. So that's been my biggest work and my biggest heart here in Cobb County and throughout the Atlanta area.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Same question to you, Ms. Moore.
I want to extend my condolences to Brian for his loss. Very similar to Brian, my volunteer work has been through my agency, I Raise Girls and Boys, where I actually teach entrepreneurship programs every week to kids in the Metro Atlanta area. Some of them are in Cobb as well. I started also a local podcast, which brings in key leaders in the community that talks about things like parenting and nutrition and food insecurity and housing and ways to really uplift and build our communities. And some of my pending volunteer opportunities include working with our local schools and supporting kids' social emotional learning, as well as working in my local church with the high school and middle school youth. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Danziger, same question to you.
Sure. As one of the Women of Achievement for Live Safe in 2020, I have done a tremendous amount of volunteer work around Cobb, but I just moved to the Mableton area in 2020 and after living in Cobb for 40 years. And so I am still learning about opportunities. I have worked within my neighborhood to help establish some things, given it is a new neighborhood development. And I did do some food distribution in some really cold weather with Must Ministries out here. And then in the Chamber of Commerce, I've been real involved in Leadership Cobb and Honorary Commanders, and we've done things all over Cobb County.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, all of you, to your response to our questions. Dante?
All right. Next question from the community is, do you envision the city expanding beyond the current 4 services, and under what conditions? And we'll start that. Let's start with Ms. Moore.
I believe that as a new city, we really need to focus on 2 major departments, and that is Parks and Recreation, focusing on cultivating our outdoor park spaces, improving our park infrastructure, and ensuring that we have best practice in health and conservation initiatives. We have amazing parks here that needs more development. I want to ensure that we have picnic areas, fencing, trails, and bridges, and year-long programming for our children and families. And I also want to make sure we get our hands really dived into community development, ensuring that we have a solid structure for planning and zoning, building inspection, code enforcement, and economic development. I think those are the main areas that we really need to ensure that we're creating a solid plan to make sure that our city is running efficiently.
Thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Graham. Same question, sir.
Absolutely. Personally, and from the feedback I've gotten from the community, it would be incredibly irresponsible to begin to tackle additional services. Talked to so many neighbors, so many people that are very concerned that Mableton will elect people that will try to start up a new police force or wind up a new fire department to take away from the services that they've enjoyed for years and years and years, that are incredibly high quality levels of service that we get with our current taxes to Cobb County. To that end, I believe that we need to create a very solid foundation with the services that will be provided initially. The amount of time, money, and effort that's going to be involved in simply putting together this city should be the sole focus of the mayor and the city council, and not try to bite off more than we can chew by adding on additional services. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Pendleton next. Same question.
So as the city grows and expands, we may see the need to expand to those services. But as it stands right now, outside of these 4 services, no, I don't see a need for us to take on more than we can chew. Like Mr. Graham said, we need to work with the fire department. We need to work with the police department. It needs to be a partnership moving forward, and not to step on toes or to overextend ourselves. Especially in our first term, which would be for 2 years, we need to focus on zoning, code enforcement, parks and recreation, and sanitation. And for now, that would be until the city has a need to expand to more services. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to, we're going to jump around some. So let's go to Ms. Anthony, same question.
And thank you for that question. So no, at this moment, that's not the task at hand. We are modeled as a city light. And again, that was the feasibility study that was done to make sure that we have the economic support to make sure that we can focus on the 4 big bucket items. So at this moment, no, I don't think it's imperative or even a thought that we focus on something that can be potentially way down the road. It is about building relationships with people. We have DOT, we have other members of Parks and Rec, we have Cobb Police. So we need to make sure that we're building relationships with people to make sure that the services that we do provide are top tier and top notch. So it is about building that foundation and knowing our city. We're coming out the gate fresh, so we don't need to even think about taking anything additional on, but really having a solid foundation on what we do want to provide our citizens.
Thank you. And we'll go to Ms. Dassinger next. Same question.
Yes, we have a lot on our plate just for the first 2 years to establish the government itself and to begin to establish the services. I've worked in many other industries, healthcare, the legal industry, software, financial services. Government doesn't always move at the pace that other for-profit industries do. There's a lot of negotiating. There's a lot of buy-in necessary. There is just a tremendous attention to the budget and managing it well. If we can get these 4 services off the ground in 2 years, we are doing great for our citizens.
Thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Patrick next. Same question.
Thank you. I hate to sound like a broken record, but everyone is right. The things that we need to be doing are focusing on City Light and focusing on building the trust in the community that we can actually do this job. I don't think that we need to focus on adding new services, but the citizens will tell us if that time ever happens. And when that time does happen, then we'll cross that bridge when we need to cross it. But right now, we just need to focus on getting the city set up the right way.
Thank you. And Ms. Brown, same question.
Hey, nothing left to add here. I agree with everyone. And let's move on to the next question.
All righty. Joel, we'll kick it back over to you.
This question from the public. Do you believe that the city of Mableton should be run like a business? Why or why not? And that first question will go to Ms. Dassinger.
Well, I just said that for-profit companies tend to move at a different pace than what I've experienced in working with other cities as well as Cobb County. I think it should be run in that manner from an HR standpoint, from a budgeting standpoint, from an efficiency and productivity standpoint, I think we would do well to have that. But there are nuances to serving people. There are definitely nuances to being an elected official representing an area of people. It's really about what they want, and that's the direction we need to move in as a city and develop in that manner.
Great. Thank you very much. Same question to you, Mr. Patrick.
Can you guys hear me? It looks like I'm pressing the button and it says mute still.
Yes, we can hear you just fine, sir.
Perfect. I do believe that a government can be and should be run like a government in many aspects. Some of the best businesses that we have are led by servant leaders who represent the people who work for them, and they work for those people as well. Some of the best businesses are efficient. Some of the best businesses are smart, and all of the best businesses have a profit, not a deficit. And these are all the same things that we should want out of our representatives and out of our city. So when I look to go to that ballot box and vote, if not voting for myself, I'm voting for people who want to run a city as efficiently as some of the best businesses out there.
Thank you very much. Same question to you, Ms. Brown.
Yes, so I believe that, obviously a city has operating expenses, there's revenues coming in, and you can't spend more than what you are bringing in, and you always need a surplus for rainy days. So that's the business aspect of it. But I believe also as a public servant, I have a charge to keep. And each one of us has a charge to keep to our constituents, and we need to keep any decisions that we're making people-centered, community-centered, and that will also influence what we do. That is something that might be a little bit different than what a CEO of a company does. But I believe between the two together, we serve our people properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to you, Ms. Moore.
If we were a business, I believe we should be a partnership, because I believe government is about partnership. It's about making sure that everyone has a seat at the table, and that when decisions are made, it's made in partnership with the residents. So I do believe, in a sense, yes, we need to make sure that we're including you at the table, that you have a voice and you have a stakeholder in your community. I also believe that we need fiscal responsibility. We need a sound budget, and that does take business skills. We need to ensure that all these things are in place. And as a small business owner for over 10 years, I've managed multi-million dollar budgets, and I know what it takes to run a small business. And I believe these are skill sets that need to be transferable in city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Graham.
Simply put, I'm a huge proponent of government being run like a business. As a business owner myself, I run a small ambulance service out in the west counties of West Georgia. I know that if a business spends more money than it has, if a business takes on more than it can handle, if a business makes poor choices, that business more often than not will go bankrupt, will go out of business. If a government does the same, a lot of times taxpayers end up holding the bag, end up paying more, end up getting reduced services or poor performance from that government. And in that case, we model this city and our government after a business that's run responsibly and reasonably will always be in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Same question to you, Ms. Anthony.
Thank you for that question. So simply, yes, we do need to run it as a business from a fiscal standpoint, a budgetary standpoint, absolutely. But our business is the business of public service. We are in the business of representing people, our constituents, our residents, our friends, our families, our neighbors of Mableton. And we have to meet the needs of our residents as they are all changing. But all thriving businesses build relationships with people. No one business can do one thing great by themselves. It takes a team, it takes a village, it takes all of us to be able to do the work and be about the business of making Mableton strong. So yes, I do believe that we can run it like a business. We can thrive, we can capitalize on our strengths and make Mableton be the best place it can be.
Thank you very much. And the same question to you, Mr. Pendleton.
Yes, as far as balancing the budget and keeping everything operating like a business, yes, I agree. Whereas our customers, however, would be our neighbors, and they would act as shareholders, and we would be accountable to the shareholders. They would want, I would hope, to see the city succeed as if it were a business. But yeah, so yes, to agree with everybody else, yes, as a business.
Thank you so very much for all of you for your responses. Dante?
All right. So next question. Some have argued that a tax increase is inevitable with the formation of a city, even a city with a limited set of services like ours. How do you respond to this? And we'll go to Ms. Brown first.
Sure. What I tell people is that, first of all, right now, we don't know what it's going to look like from a budgetary perspective until we start to see the revenues come in. And then we also understand what our operating expenses are like. However, in direct answer to, can a city operate without charging additional taxes? I would ask everyone to go to Google and check out Peachtree Corners. They were chartered 10 years ago, City Light. The feasibility study stated that Peachtree Corners is most like Mableton, and they charge zero in city taxes. They only pay Gwinnett County taxes.
Thank you. And same question, Mr. Graham.
To echo Ms. Brown, it is absolutely possible. As we see with Peachtree Corners, a city can be run without raising city taxes. There are a number of ways to build revenue that does not result in a direct property tax to the residents of Mableton. However, that goes hand in hand with responsible management of the city, in that we have modest plans, that we do not let the scope of the city get out of hand, that we don't take on huge projects like massive city hall plans or jumping into new services, and that we also maintain our relationships with existing county services, that we work hand in hand to reduce redundance and improve efficiency any way that we can with Cobb County, with surrounding areas. So in short, we need to be committed to not placing that tax burden on residents, and making sure that not only do we not add that new tax, but we spend within our means. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. And same question to you, Ms. Moore.
As my colleagues, I do believe that there is a way to run our city efficiently without raising taxes. It is very new for us. My goal is to make sure that, again, all of you have a seat at the table. You are informed of what's going on, and that anything that happens is happening because we've made that decision together. However, there are ways that we can build up revenue through tourism, through our Mabel House, and through other ways that will ensure that our city is bringing in the revenue needed to be efficient. My goal is to make sure I'm a homeowner. I don't want to pay more taxes, and I know you don't either. So my goal is to make sure we keep them taxes as low as possible, and that whatever decisions are made, we make them together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. And we'll go to Ms. Dasinger next. Same question.
So since January 21st, I have knocked on more than 600 doors, and I have talked to a lot of residents in District 4. And that's one of their main concerns. But when UGA did the feasibility study, they identified 11 sources of revenue. The largest 5: occupational tax, building permits, insurance premiums, franchise fees, motor vehicle tax. Each of those were over 1 million, and that was just 5. So we have multiple things that we already have coming into our area. And then we have grants and other things from the federal government and the state that we can request before we ever consider raising taxes on residents. We need to build up our community with businesses, and that's where our tax base needs to increase.
Thank you. And Mr. Patrick, same question to you.
It's hard to add anything. Everyone had really great answers, and all of that is very true. And to piggyback off of Ms. Dasinger, there's so much potential for more tax base expansion throughout Mableton as a city, that raising taxes on our residents is the absolute last thing that I think anyone in any of the districts want to do. And I can say for myself, it's something that I will not do. Ms. Dasinger spoke to 600 people. I'd say I'm very close right behind her, knocking on those same doors. And it's a worry that a lot of people have. I think you can rest assured from the answers of all 8 people here on the council that we will do everything in our power to expand every other option before we'll ever think about raising taxes on anyone in Mableton.
Thank you. And Ms. Anthony, same question to you.
Ditto with what everybody said. I do believe that raising taxes should never be the default response, and that should just really be your last resort. One of the things that I don't think anyone's really explored is really just taking advantage of the real estate assets that we have in Mableton. As we know, there is a lot of underused, underdeveloped property land that we definitely need to look at, find opportunities to redevelop that, because again, that does provide the potential to generate new revenue, can stabilize the general fund, and it does increase our tax base. So we need to make sure that we're redeveloping some of the land that we already have to increase the taxable value of any surrounding land. So that is one solution to make sure that we're not increasing taxes. I know that also in the feasibility study, it also gave lots of other fees that can be used to generate funds. So there is a way. We have to be creative. We have to look at other cities that are doing this, but it is definitely possible. And it's something that we need to look at, because again, nobody wants their taxes to be raised, and that should never be the default or the go-to for any city.
Thank you. And Mr. Pendleton, same question.
So yeah, as it was stated, we'll be operating on that surplus budget, and we don't exactly know what it is, and we won't until we start the city. There are other avenues to explore to bring revenue into the city. And I would encourage that we explore those options before raising taxes is even discussed, by discouraging wasteful spending, encouraging responsible money management, not by taking shortcuts, but and then just stretching the budget to last for as long as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for your answers. Joel, back to you.
All right. This question is also from the public. Some citizens are actively collecting petitions to be de-annexed from this city. And so this question is not a hypothetical. How would you vote, yay or nay, if a group of citizens approached the city council with these petitions and asked to be allowed to de-annex from the city? Explain your answer. And that first question will go to you, Mr. Graham.
Absolutely. And, this is a question that is more or less unique to District 4, where we have the de-annexation movement, right here in our district. It's a question that's been asked numerous times when talking to the community, knocking on doors, making phone calls, and it's a difficult question. On the one hand, we don't want to split up our areas and de-annex seats that just got elected and cost the entire county more money in running another election to replace people in District 4. On the other hand, people do have the right to choose where they live. And in this case, if enough people get together and make up enough of the percentage, I would be more than happy to vote to allow them to leave the city of Mableton and to be recognized in that way. So in short, yes. In long, it's complicated, but we want to see that level of support from those people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Same question to you, Ms. Anthony.
Thank you again for that question. So my thoughts on this movement, again, I think Mr. Graham said it well, that this is very much specific to District 4. So again, I don't ever believe in disenfranchising any voter. Everybody has a right to have a seat at the table, to have their thoughts, their views, to be heard and understood. Because I live in Mableton, right off Veterans Memorial, I wasn't very versed in the de-annexation movement until all the buzz came up. And I'm like, what is really happening? And so now I understand some of the verbiage on the ballot. There was some concerns on how the lines were drawn. So it is worth the conversation. Again, it's not a yes or a no, would I or would I not? It is worth the conversation so we can figure out how to compromise. Because again, who wants to start a city with discord, disharmony, where people are unhappy? We have to figure out a way to work together to compromise and to collaborate, which is something that I think as a bridge builder is a huge asset to have. So it is complicated, definitely worth the conversation and to see what solutions are available to make sure all of our residents are happy.
Thank you. Some question to you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you. So I think the proper way to frame this is what is the law? And so right now, I understand that there was a bill dropped last week. It's State House Bill 374 that you all can look up. And this would provide provisions for de-annexation, but that is something that will affect the entire state. That's number one. Number two, Representative David Wilkerson, who's been working with the de-annexation movement, is supposed to drop a bill or legislation that is specific to Mableton. And once we know what that legislation says and it is passed, then we would properly, as a city council, consider what is brought to us based on the actual law. Thank you.
Just a follow-up, Ms. Brown. So if that legislation did not pass and it came back to city council, how would you approach that issue?
Well, that legislation, okay, so if the legislation did not pass, then we would need to look at what the law is, okay, for as it stands today. So as it stands today, it's my understanding that an area would have to bring 100% of their property owners, have them sign a petition, and then they would be able to come like to a city council and ask to be de-annexed, which if you have followed the law and you have the proper number of people, then I have no choice but to say yes.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. Thank you.
Sure.
Same question to you, Ms. Dasinger.
Wow, if future taxes weren't the conversation I had with residents, it was this. I'll tell you what, this is truly, truly a reason to know exactly what you're voting for and to understand what the ballot's like before you go in a polling location. But that aside, I personally am not in favor of overturning elections. We've already had that debacle that scarred our nation. But in this case, I think that I would want to survey my district. I would want to do some focus groups. I would want to have some town hall meetings. I would want to understand exactly how District 4 feels about this. And then I would like to bring in the other council members and ask them to do a similar thing in their district. Because right now we're one city and we need to make decisions on how to handle this from a citywide perspective. But I do respect the fact that it needs to be a very big discussion point, and I'm looking forward to having that.
Thank you so much. Mr. Pendleton?
So I voted for the city. I believe in cityhood, and I think that the positives outweigh the negatives. But I think it's more nuanced than just allowing an entire area to de-annex from the city. It would be a case-by-case basis, and it would. I think it was Mr. Graham that said, or maybe it was Ms. Brown that said 100% of the neighborhood, if they were in agreement to de-annex from the city, I don't see an issue with allowing that to happen. But I think, and especially in District 4, for every person that I've met that is against cityhood, I've met somebody that's for it as well. And in my precinct alone, it was a difference of 40 votes. And that's another thing that I've encountered going door to door. A lot of people just didn't vote. And that's an issue as well. We need to get more people to vote on these issues so that the consensus across the city is more accurate. But yes, I would be open to listening to everybody to just thank you.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Patrick.
As you can tell by everybody's answers, this is a hard, uncomfortable, tough question, especially in District 4 where the de-annexation movement is so strong. Personally, I feel that they have every right to petition the government and do the things that they're doing, and they're doing the right process currently. But to answer the question, if it did come to a council vote, I feel we have to let them vote on this. We have to vote to allow this. At the end of the day, we represent those in the district. And if the district's appetite is for the annexation and they want to take this to the city council, then we need to represent them. But it does have to be a vote for the entire council, and we are the only district that is this strong in it. But yes, I do believe that they should have that opportunity.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Moore, that same question is to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very challenging. And I've been knocking on hundreds of doors in a district. And it's very interesting that some people had no idea that cityhood was passed, and some are against and some are for. It's just a very sensitive and volatile matter. But I do believe that those that are looking to be de-annexed, their concerns are valuable. And I see you and hear you if you're on here or if you're watching later. I know it's difficult, it's challenging for all of us, but I also believe that there are fundamental issues with trust that need to be addressed. And so this is multifaceted, and we have to find a way to really come together. We're one community, we're one city. We have to come together and figure out something that's going to work for everyone. But your voice is valuable, and I want to make sure I hear you. So we need to find a way to look at this from both sides and implement a solution that works for all of us. But we also must rely on Georgia's law relating to de-annexation. It must guide our decisions and our action. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, for very thoughtful responses to that question. Thank you so much. Dante?
All righty. So next question from the community is, what will you do to ensure that Mableton prospers as a city in a way like Smyrna or other neighboring cities, and not become overly crowded with clustered housing? So we will start with Mr. Patrick. We'll start with you.
Just to understand the question, it says, what would you do to make sure that we offer as a city without clustered housing?
No, so the question is saying, what will you do to ensure that Mableton prospers as a city, like, just as an example, like Smyrna or other neighboring cities, and not become overly crowded with clustered housing?
Well, the first part of that question is an economic growth question. And I think that one of the things that we need to start doing is incentivizing businesses to come here, incentivizing growth in that manner, and incentivizing new jobs here. I think the first step that we need to do with that is to fast track permitting, to allow businesses to quickly open up here, to also look into some different tax abatements to make it worth their while. The difference between those cities and our city is that those cities do have programs that drive economic growth and we don't. When it comes to looking at the cluster of housing, I think right now we're in a good space. We don't have a cluster of housing going on. In fact, right now there needs to be more people moving in here to drive our economic growth. So I think the biggest part of this question is, how do we grow economically? And that's how I would do it.
Thank you. And we'll go to you next, Ms. Brown. Same question.
Thank you. So part of my platform is around smart growth and planning. And I think that speaks directly to this issue of, as someone put it, clustered housing. So what we want to do is, number one, have a comprehensive development plan that is informed by the community. What is it that we want to see as a community? But then we have to recognize from an economic development perspective that in order to bring in many businesses, they're going to want to see rooftops. And so those rooftops are additional homes. And that's why we don't see a lot of the development we want today. So it's about having that housing development in the right places so that it's not impeding residential areas that are already existing today. So I think those are the concepts for us to focus on to keep from having the clustered housing that people are concerned about. Thanks.
Thank you. And we'll go to you next, Mr. Graham. Same question.
This question of prosperity and clustered housing, those two things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. As others have said, prosperity, like other neighboring cities, is a function of economic development, economic growth. By encouraging businesses and a varied type of businesses and industry to make their home here in Mableton, to keep their home here in Mableton, to participate in the community as those businesses by hiring more employees, we do see that prosperity. Regarding housing, the way that the city council, the mayor, and Mableton as a city can approach that is by making the code favor more high quality levels of housing that, lead to better structures that are built, that lead to more valuable houses being built, that don't just shift off into lower quality apartments that, add to the, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. And next we'll go to you, Mr. Pendleton. Same question.
So I don't necessarily see more people moving into Mableton as a bad thing. As Ms. Brown said, businesses are going to want to see people living here. They're not going to bring their business here if there's nobody living in Mableton. I think that it's a zoning issue. As long as there's a balance between where houses can be built, where apartment communities can be built, and with businesses as well alongside that, I think that would cut down on seeing these housing clusters, as the question stated. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Anthony, same question.
Yes, so I am an Atlanta native, born and raised here. And so when I was growing up, there were certain cities in Cobb that you just didn't want to live in. And now those cities are thriving. And they have a downtown, they have businesses, they have huge economic growth. So there's no reason why Mapleton can't be that same thing. I think it is about having a clear vision, a path. I think it's important to have some type of task force where we're looking at the existing infrastructure and possibly redeveloping and reimagining our spaces. And we need to determine the feasibility of these processes. It comes down to zoning. There's a lot of businesses that have already come into Mableton, including we have the FedEx distribution center. We're close to Hartsfield-Jackson. We're close to I-20 and major thoroughfares. So it is important that we have these conversations. We don't want clustered housing, but we do have a huge opportunity for development and economic business and thriving in Mableton. So we need to definitely look at the space that we have and reimagine and redevelop those places.
Thank you. And Ms. Daxinger, same question.
Yeah, this is a very, very complex issue. If we want to develop economically and bring in more businesses, professional services, restaurants, movie theaters, just areas of recreation, then we have to have people to staff those areas. Transportation is not affordable to a lot of people, and transportation is a whole nother issue. So we do need to have the ability to house people sufficiently here. I think this is where zoning and code enforcement needs to be, and I'm so glad now it's under our control, because we can look at our specific needs. We can also look to other communities and see how they're doing it outside of Georgia. This is not a unique problem. It's a problem where we can learn from other people to see how they've done it well.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Moore, same question to you.
Yeah, I love this question. Economic growth is really essential and important to us as being efficient. I believe that we need a solid economic plan, and that plan must include not just outside businesses coming into Mableton, but we have tons of small business owners right here in Mableton that we need to invest in. We need to support them through grants and through resources to ensure that they're also successful. I believe that our residents must occupy those spaces. Veterans Memorial Highway is a beautiful area that has a lot of potential that would allow our current residents to occupy those spaces, as well as bring outside businesses in here. I know in talking to neighbors, there have been many concerns with not having access to good eatery spaces or other things that we have to travel outside of for Mableton. I believe that we can have all that here. We can do that through partnership with the Cobb County of Commerce. They have tons of grants and resources that are not yet tapped into. In fact, they don't have demographics in the Mableton business areas as of yet. That's something I want to be, I will be committed to. And lastly, we need a board committee to help us make decisions in regards to zoning and housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the candidates for District 4. I think we've reached our time limit for the Q&A portion for you guys. So Joel, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. And also just for our listening and viewing audiences, we just want to point out to you that this particular position, District 4, just like the District 6 before it, we did have a candidate who elected not to participate in the program. So you may not be hearing from all the candidates that are there. who qualified for the ballot. Just want to make sure people knew that in the general public. But again, we thank you for all of your time and your responses to the questions that have been posed this evening. Thank you so much. And as Dante stated, we will now be moving on to the final position, that of mayor. And so at this point, if all the mayoral candidates would kindly turn on their cameras so we can see them and they can be participating with us. You're right. Well, we thank all of our mayoral candidates for your patience and for sticking with us. But obviously, we want to make sure that the voters have a chance to hear from that of mayor. Obviously, that's the one office this evening that everyone from end to end, tip to tip of the city will be voting for. So what we're going to do, again, like we do the other offices, begin with the mayoral candidates and allow them 1 minute opening statement, and then we'll go into the Q&A portion of the program. And I guess we'll go ahead and start with you, Ms. Long, if you would please begin us off, and we'll go into the next candidates.
Thank you. Hello, my name is LaTanya Long. As an experienced policy manager, a 10-year resident, wife, and mom, I recognize this unique opportunity to create the most family-friendly city in Georgia, a city where leadership is community-centered and leadership is a vehicle that you can trust. There's a lot of division in our community right now, whether or not Mableton should be a city. I understand both sides of this argument, but the truth is Mableton is a city and we are here. We are a desirable community, and my goal is to work with the council and to create the most family-friendly city in Georgia. I ask you to stand with me and vote for me. Thank you.
Very much. Mr. Carmen?
Fantastic. Hi, my name is Aaron Carmen. I'm running to be the first mayor of Mableton. I have been a resident of South Cobb and Mableton for over 30 or 40 years, and I'm committed to making Mableton a great place to live, work, and play. I felt called to step forward and build a strong foundation for the city of Mableton, and I believe my background in business gives me the unique perspective on the challenges that Mableton is going to face as a new city. Over 23 years in corporate IT sales, I've built and led teams successfully over that time. In an ever-changing IT landscape, things happen and change on the fly, and you have to be able to pivot and make executive decisions as the world around us changes. I believe it's this type of leadership that we need when we're looking at the future of our city. As mayor, I will work to make sure all Mableton residents' voices are heard, and that city of Mableton is a place we're all proud to call home. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Owen? Mr. Owens, you're muted.
Thank you, Joel. Again, my name is Dr. Michael Owens. I've lived in Mableton for 25 years, consecutively for the last 15, where I've worked on the ground with many of you guys over that time. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm a cybersecurity executive. I've led over 5 Fortune 500 organizations as an information security officer and auditor. I'm the former chairman of the Democratic Party right here in Cobb County, where I was elected twice, and I worked very hard to make sure that everyone in South Cobb had a vote and a voice. I'm a graduate of Leadership Cobb and Leadership Georgia, where I've learned a lot about what makes us work as a community and as a state. I've lived off Nickajack, off of Clay Road, off of Oakdale. Now I live off of Buckner. I've got 2 kids of school age that live here with me. My mother also lives here in Mableton, where she's a retired nurse from Cobb Wellstar. I'm running for Mableton because it's home. It's where I live. I believe in our future. I believe in the future of the city. I've been doing this work for years. I've advocated for sidewalks. I've advocated for local schools, and I'm more than happy to have an opportunity to talk to you guys today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy.
All right, you saved a good wine till last. Good evening. I'm Michael Murphy, and I'm running to be the first mayor of Mableton, the Western Gateway, the new city that will be the shining jewel in the mosaic of our county. As we begin this journey together, we will need a mayor who has been a community connector and can become the city connector. Based on my experience, my leadership skills, my vision and relationships, I am the best candidate to be your mayor. I'm the only small business owner in this race, the candidate with the best revenue enhancement plans, a commitment not to raise taxes unless we get the consent of the voter. My candidacy is not just to earn the vote of the citizens, but to also earn the vote of my future colleagues running for council seats. I will work with any 6 leaders that come through this journey with me together. We will take a blank canvas of this city and paint a picture of progress, premier service, smart growth, and prosperity that will foster success for many years to come.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, all of you. Dante?
All right, so let's get to it. So first question that comes from the community is, what will be your first priority when you take office? And we'll start with Mr. Owens.
Thank you for that, Dante. One point of clarification. I don't believe Michael Murphy is the only candidate as a small business owner. I've had a business in the state of Georgia for quite some time where I consult on with municipalities as well as professional companies on cybersecurity issues. First order of business, is that the question, Dante?
Yes, sir. What's your first priority?
Yeah, the first priority we have that I would look at is our intergovernmental agreements. I mean, it's the way that the bill is structured, the way that the city is going to be structured. It's very important that we have our number one, our chief partner, which is Cobb County. So getting an intergovernmental agreement established with the county is going to be key. I'm fortunate to have a long and productive relationship with our Madam Chairwoman, Lisa Cupid, and that is going to be vitally important to ensure that we have the structure in place, we have the agreement in place, and not only with Cobb County, but also with our neighboring counties as well, as we look to work through a transition of services.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. And we'll go to you next, Mr. Carmen.
No, I think I agree with Michael Owens. I think we need to immediately engage with our partners at Cobb County. There's so much of the services that we're going to continue to retain in the City Light model that we need to negotiate those services, understand the inner workings of those contracts. So that's going to be step one, engaging with Cobb, our partners in this. And then also we need to hire a city manager and city attorney to help us negotiate those contracts and those services to make sure that we are limiting the fiscal impact on our residents.
Thank you. And next to you, Mr. Murphy. Same question.
Yes, but first order of business would be to recruit or find the very best city manager that we could get. And from there, I'd certainly get a premier grant writer. In other words, we're the policymakers, but you need the operations underpinning to get things in place and ready to go.
Thank you. And Ms. Long, same question.
Yes, my first priority, because Governor Kemp has elected not to appoint a transition team, as mayor, I would like to work with the council to create a board of advisors and a transition team so we know what we're working with. I want to retain temporary municipal legal counsel to negotiate and execute contracts. I want to identify and negotiate divisions of services and costs that are going to be provided by Cobb County. I also want to hire a budget and finance director, create a business licensing office, and a way that we can start collecting money. And yes, hiring a city manager and a city attorney is top priority for our new city to start up.
Thank you for that. Joel?
All right. Next question from the public, and this question is to you, Mr. Owens. The legislation provides that Mableton will have a weak mayor system. How will you use the position of mayor to advance the interest of Mableton?
Yeah, so according to the law, that's basically what it says. So it really makes important, very, very important that the next mayor or the first mayor of Mableton has relationships built not only throughout Cobb, but throughout the state and our regional area. That's one area where I think it's going to be vitally important with the mayor's role. Again, I just spoke about my relationship with our county commission chair. But if you look across the board, relationships we have with our elected officials in our neighboring counties, as well as I just spent some time today talking with some of the offices in our United States Senate office about some of the issues that we could be facing. Being this situation and in mayor is going to be very important if someone has the relationships to be able to help raise the awareness about what's going on in the city, what the people need, and be able to execute and get funding from outside. We'll probably talk about this later as far as tax base, but I want to make sure that we're looking at opportunities for funding at the state and federal level.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Murphy.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, the legislation that established the city of Mableton provided for a weak mayor system. How will you use the position of mayor to advance the interests of Mableton?
Surely, I would certainly take advantage of the relationships that I have, not just with the chairwoman, but with all the officers there. I had the opportunity of working with Cobb County for 4 years, and I certainly know our county manager, I know the structure. I worked with them on a number of projects. I would also use the office to really recruit, to be the focal point with my colleagues on the council, and to really bring up to date the advances and the potential that we have. There are a lot of advantages available to cities that counties can't even take advantage of. So it would be really understanding, taking every vote seriously, but also being able to be the connector that is necessary to progress and to be the best we can be.
Thank you so much. Same question to you, Mr. Carmen.
I mean, I view the position of mayor, we are the ones with the loudest microphone, right? And the loudest megaphone to be able to be the advocate and the representative for all the residents in the city of Mableton. So listening to our residents, understanding the needs of our city, and making sure that we are the largest champion and we are the largest advocate and going to fight those battles to get the resources that we need, to get the partnerships that we need with the county, with the state, to make sure that we are making progress and that we're doing this city to see the progressive nature of what we can become. And so I feel we have the biggest megaphone to be able to be the cheerleader and the advocate for all the residents in the city.
Thank you. Same question to you, Ms. Long.
Yes, I have a strong background in public policy. I've worked as public policy manager for Metro Atlanta Chamber. I've established legislative relationships and experience. I've worked for Minority Leader Gloria Butler, but even though it is a weak mayor, our first priority is to create and launch a board of advisors and a transition team to make sure that we are starting this city off on the right and responsible path to success. And that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you, for the responses. Dante?
All right. So I have a good question for you. This is from the community. The question is, it's been said that you can tell a lot by a person by their checkbook. So what would your checkbook tell us about you? And we can start with Mr. Carmen.
That is a great question. I think it tells a lot about a person. And I think I kind of go back to my mom when I was being raised, and she taught me how to balance a checkbook and understanding how much money we have and how much we can spend, right? And always kind of building in a buffer and building in a surplus so that you didn't bounce a check or overextend yourself, right? I think the tendency is to go after the big shiny things in our culture, right? We want the new car, the new house, the new toys. But sometimes I feel, and this is where it relies to the city, is that we need to start modestly. We need to focus on fiscal conservatism to be able to do these core services well and under budget and not have it fiscally impact our residents in Mableton. So balancing a checkbook, it's the basic core. It's balancing the budget and being responsible with your money.
Thank you. And next, same question for you, Ms. Long. It's been said that you can tell who a person is by their checkbook. So what would your checkbook tell us about you?
I love that checkbook analogy. We have to treat Mableton like it's our home, and you know what's coming in and you know what's going out. And given that we are a new city, I will encourage the council to spend projected revenues perhaps at 80 to 85% range rather than that 100%. We have to be fiscally responsible. And I'm even, open to supporting a policy where we have mid-year budget reviews. I sit at the table with my husband and our family, and we look at what's going out, what's coming in, and what we got coming up. And I want to approach that method to our city.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And next to you, Mr. Murphy, same question.
Yes, I think it's a lot to that saying, and I think my checkbook would tell you that I play things close to the vest. I certainly do not do anything extravagant, but my pride is not only with a sound checkbook, but I also believe in a good savings account. I've always felt that that's kind of also tells you a lot about a person. Is like the good squirrel that puts away the nuts for the tough times. I believe in that as well. And that's the sort of thinking, the sort of planning that I would bring to the office of mayor as we look over the road to be prepared for contingencies, because none of us know what tomorrow may bring. And if it means opportunity, we need to be in a position to take advantage of it.
Thank you. Mr. Owens, same question to you, sir.
What would my checkbook say? It would say that that I invest a lot and I donate a lot to worthy causes in our community, local, county, and state, and even beyond that. But in actuality, it wouldn't say anything because I don't have a checkbook. I don't own a checkbook. I don't, because I got an eye towards the future. I use online banking. I don't use the paper for checks because I believe in being environmentally friendly. I leverage the technology because I think it's faster, less prone to fraud, and more accurate. So if you're looking at my, what my administration would look like, it doesn't include a checkbook. I believe in looking forward. I believe in sustainability. I want to invest in solar technologies. I want to move us forward as a city, build a smart city that works for everyone. So use an analogy of checkbook isn't exactly right when it comes to Michael Owens, because I want to move us forward.
Thank you. Joel, back to you.
Thank you very much. This question is to you, Mr. Murphy. Besides trying to talk to the voters about your candidacy, how are you going about educating residents, businesses, and other stakeholders about the city election and what the new city will be about?
Well, it's a good question. I appreciate that. I'm simply being visible. I realize, and certainly learned for a long time, why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So I make sure that I listen. I am amazed and so impressed by the excitement that I find out there with residents and businesses. I know that there are a number of them that are frustrated. They've said that they felt that that government has been too onerous. They're hopeful for the future, and I've certainly assured them that they will have a voice, that I will be their voice and I will have their back. And I know that there's a lot of concern, but I can't emphasize enough that there's so much hope and so much excitement. I would say that there's fields that, in particular, as it relates to code enforcement, that one gentleman showed me his bill where he pays $7,000 for his license, but he's got all these signs of many candidates out in front of his business, and he can't even put a opening soon next door without being given a citation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Same question to you, Ms. Long. I think you're still on mute.
Oh, okay. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Besides going around telling the voters about why they should vote for you for mayor, what are you doing to talk to the public and make sure that residents, businesses, and other stakeholders know about this election and understand what this new city will be about?
Listen, Mableton is that I would like to say the best kept secret, but it's an exciting opportunity for stakeholders and future businesses. It's a lot of opportunity here. And with every great city that's made up of communities, we want to, still focus on our green spaces. One of my initiatives is Parks and Recs. I want to create state-of-the-art, family-friendly things, and that family-friendly, environment attracts businesses, attracts people to our city, and that's really important to me.
Thank you so much. Same question to you, Mr. Carmen.
Yeah, so I think the question was about communicating to the residents about the city and the updates along the way. And I think when I talk to people, I think one of the things about the whole cityhood movement was the confusion and some of the lack of information or understanding on whether they were included or not. And so it's really been one of the things that have jumped out to me that we need to develop as elected officials is the trust and the respect of our residents. And we do that through clear communication, meet and greets, town halls. We invite them to give us their feedback, understand what their needs are so that we can develop policy and missions and visions for the future that align to those needs. So clear and transparent communication has to be a must when sharing with the community, so they can learn to trust that we have their best effort intentions at heart.
Thank you so much. Same question to you, Mr. Owens.
Joel, back in 2013, I started a group called the South Cobb Voter Initiative. And I'm sure because you attended meetings and other people on here attended some of those same meetings I held. I've been an active member in this community, making sure people know about elections and each and every election to get out and vote. As it relates to this election specifically, I've had meetings with business owners. I've been talking with HOA leaders, as well as nonprofits about just in general getting the vote out. I know this is a nonpartisan race, but I've spent a decade working in this community, talking to voters, encouraging them to get out to vote again every time there's an election. On my website right now, I have the entire process of how to request absentee ballots, where to go to vote, and how to go through that entire process, because I do want to make sure voters are well educated on not only who they vote for, but how they can actually go out there and vote. And lastly, thanks for having Director Evler on today. She has been a champion for voting here in Cobb County. But I'm also a little bit sad because I heard there's only 50 people that has registered or that has received absentee ballots. That number must go up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your responses. Dante?
All right. Next question is, what can you do to ensure that there is social and cultural balance here in Mableton? And we'll start with Mr. Murphy.
Well, thank you for the question. I would certainly say that I would make sure that I would envision that there would be some sort of maybe perhaps a cultural committee, that there would be representatives from the community that would be willing to serve and volunteer, so that we would be a voice. We would be able to keep a good pulse on the needs and the desires of the community. I'm proud of a lot of the initiatives that I see that exist. I know that particularly with the example of the Maple House is a good example. And I know that there are a number of things, programs that are put on, particularly with our Parks and Rec, but we have an opportunity to have our ear close to the ground. And I believe an active committee, cultural committee, would be something that I would be an advocate for. And obviously each member of the council would have an appointee to that committee.
Thank you. And we'll go next to Ms. Long. Same question.
Yes. One of the things I love about Mableton is that it's so diverse. I walk around my neighborhood and I see people from all walks of life. As mayor, I feel like it's important in a plan that we create a citizen input direction for the city. What I mean by that is when you look at cities like Milton and Sandy Springs and Peachtree Corners, they have successful community boards and community initiatives. I would like to take those things on for our city to get our people involved, make it the most family-friendly city in Georgia, and attract more families and more people to Mableton.
All right, and we'll go to Mr. Owens next. Same question.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I totally agree that Mableton is the most culturally, racially, socioeconomically, age and race diverse city in the state, I do believe. And I think that's an advantage of our city, and I want to make sure it stays that way. You know, I've been engaging with stakeholders about this already. I spoke with the president of the Senior Citizen Council of Cobb just last week. I talked with the president of the Latin American Association about programs that we can get started here. And for many of you may know that when Mableton Day was going on here, I was proud supporter and on the executive committee for hosting Mableton Day every single year. I want to see that continue and grow. You know, I would love to take the international festival that's at Jim Miller Park right now and bring it down to the Mableton House as well, so we can celebrate that culture right here in Mableton Day. It's important for me. Hopefully it's important to our council, and it's something that we can really, again, use as a competitive advantage for our city and a reason for more people to come here and be able to enjoy our great city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. And next up, Mr. Carmen.
Well, one of the benefits of going last is you get to hear everybody's answers. But, you know, to me, the two words when you first asked the question were celebrate and champion. And so to me, we have to celebrate the fact that this is just a beautifully diverse city. And that's the reason that we all chose to live here in many cases, right? I love the fact that this city reflects the world that we live in a lot of ways, right? And so there's a lot of diverse backgrounds, skills, cultural backgrounds. And to me, that feeds into the DNA of this new city. And we need to celebrate that. And then secondly, that's a huge champion moment for us as leaders of this community to attract new business, new growth to come to the city because of the diversity that we represent and all of the different folks that we represent in the city as well. So I think championing it and celebrating this as part of the branding and the DNA of our city and the diversity that we hold.
Thank you. Back to you, Joel.
All right, great. Well, that's a great segue. All of you have commented upon the incredible diversity that is Mableton, whether it's racial, demographic, economic, or whatnot. What is your vision for Mableton if elected mayor, and how will you be able to get the different pockets of the city to buy in to your one vision, given the differences that exist all around the city of Mableton? And I'll start with you, Ms. Long, for that question.
My vision for Mableton is to become the most family-friendly city in Georgia. And within that vision, we have to start off the right way. And I have a 90, 120, and 100-day plan. And in that plan, it is to launch our board of advisors and a transition team. And to identify how are we going to be fiscally responsible in our commitment to this city. My priorities, to make this city beautiful and with code enforcement and parks and recs, I want this city to attract businesses and families and be the destination of just the future. And that's what I want for our city.
Thank you very much. Same question to you, Mr. Carmen.
Yeah, so I think there's long-term and there's short-term, right? And the long-term vision for me starts with how we execute in the short term, but it's a city that everyone is proud to call home, that we know is well run, that we're responsible for every dollar that we spend and how we spend it to make sure that it's pouring back into our community and providing services at an excellent level. I would love for other cities in the future to be coming to Mableton and asking us how we did it, right? And to look at 10, 20 years down the line, to be able to see growth and development that leads to the transformation of our city as we go down into the future. But we have to start quick with the basics, and we have to make sure that we don't stumble out of the blocks and that we do these things well. And I think that's got to be our initial focus, to make sure that it sets us up for that long vision for the city.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Owens.
No, I think we segued into this talking about the celebration of diversity. And I think we have to look at that when we're looking at our vision, my long-term vision in the city. It is encapsulated in that diversity. So, that means that there's not a single goal for what the future of Mableton looks like, besides being able to create a city that increases the quality of life for everyone and everyone where they are. And so that does mean several different things, right? It could mean protecting home values in certain areas and talking about affordable houses and pathway to home ownership in other parts of the city. In some areas we talk about, we got to have fine dining establishments and tablecloth restaurants. In other places, they just want an Aldi's or Publix, right? Or Kroger's. So, there's vast differences when it comes to what will make this city great. Again, we celebrate the diversity of it, but it also means we understand the challenges that exist within the city. So when we're looking at solutions, when we're looking at big picture, we can't be myopic with this because we have goals to raise the standard of living for everyone. I want this city to be solely focused on, again, improving the quality of life for everyone. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you for that question. Well, City of Mapleton, as I said, the Western Gateway, an opportunity for all. We become an ecosystem of success, people that want to be entrepreneurs. I would support a business incubator. I would support programs that would enable people that are not interested in just getting a W-2, but a 1099 or K-1. They want their own business, they have an idea. I also feel very strongly that I've been an advocate for a land bank whereby we can address the blight, we can address the structures in our city that need to be developed, either improve or plan to remove. And I think that as we can show that there's opportunity for everyone that has a dream, whether it be of a home or a business or just a safe place to live, that we have that opportunity in Mapleton. And my vision is through excellence and premier service to be able to attain that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Dante?
All right. So of course, it's a hot topic. So the question from the community is, what are your plans for the rest of Mapleton if or when de-annexation efforts are successful for some areas of the city? And we will start with Mr. Carmen. We'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think we are having to see this process out with the de-annexation efforts. And I've been pretty candid and upfront. When in November I did not vote for cityhood, I felt like there were other ways to serve the community that we live in than forming cityhood as it was outlined. I have supported the de-annexation efforts for the group. So we have to let that process play out. But once that plays out, we will have to reset the parameters of what the city is. If there's parts that are being taken out because of de-annexation, we'll have to reevaluate that and still focus on delivering those core services to the areas that are included in the city. And I think that's going to be the learning process for us as we go in as leaders to understand what the impact of that will be on our budget and on our revenues, and then still being able to derive a cohesive plan to be able to execute those core services for those still included in the city.
Thank you. And we'll go to you, Mr. Murphy, next. Same question.
Yes, thank you for that. I have said all along, I am not a supporter of the annexation. However, I would certainly work, and I commit to work closely with the council person for that district, to listen to the concerns and the desires of those that want to de-annex. But I would also be striving to suggest that they give us a chance. Let us show how we could be a successful city, as I know that we will be. I believe that we will have an opportunity to create opportunities to actually be the jewel of this county. And I fully support the right of those who feel that they want to exercise their right to exit. But as I say, I would listen very carefully and to the representative that is elected for that district.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And we'll go to Ms. Long next. Same question.
Yes. This is truly the biggest challenge as mayor. To begin, it's just about respecting both sides of this position. I was initially not in favor of the city. However, this is a city. Mableton is here. And with new leadership, we have to prioritize creating and a unifying vision for this city. That's one of the major reasons I'm running for office. Our cities, our neighbors, they deserve the truth. They deserve transparency. I've worked with Democrats and Republicans before and after an intense 2020 election, but our vision has to be centered around our community. And I think we can reach that. And I'm committed to working together to make this happen.
Thank you, Ms. Long. And Mr. Owens, same question.
Thank you. I'm going to be very clear about this. I voted for the city of Mableton. I voted for the city of Mableton because I believe in the city of Mableton. I love the city of Mableton. And my focus is going to be on making sure we build the greatest city possible, focusing on the people that want to be in this city. I respect the people that have taken up their, constitutional right to express, their concerns about this. But the measure passed. There are thousands and thousands of people in the city that are looking for us to move forward. That's what I want to focus on. We know that there's legislation out there that we will have to see what comes of this, but I want to make sure that we focus on putting our efforts towards building the city. Regardless of what happens with the annexation, Mableton will still be a city. Any talk about dissolving a city, I think, is absurd because we have to provide services for the city going forward, and that's where my focus is going to be. So thank you for that.
Thank you for those answers. Joel, back to you.
Yes. And as has been alluded to earlier, again, Mapleton is a city that has a lot of diversity within it, one of which is economic. There are pockets of the city of Mapleton that are pushing for and advocating strongly for affordable housing. But there are other areas where people are saying, I want gentrification. I want bigger houses. I want more expensive houses. I want nicer restaurants. How will you as a mayor develop policies and development strategies that will allow those two things to live side by side within the same city? And that question goes to you first, Mr. Murphy.
Well, it's a very good question. Thank you for that. I certainly feel that we have to be open to the desires of the respective communities. And that's where I would certainly commit to work very closely with the district council members of the body, because they're the pulse, they're the first line. The org chart starts with the citizen first. I believe that just as one area has some advantages, there may be others. We have to bring things up to a level playing field. There's a diversity in housing that's necessary. And that's why, again, I feel that it's important that the advantages that a land bank would offer, I think we'll be able to address. We've got blight. We've also have situations where we realize that affordable housing is economic development. And I think that I would certainly have an ear to the different desires that other different areas want.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Owen.
Thank you for that question. I view this as many other cities in the past have taken this on. Again, celebrating the diversity of this city, which is mean you're going to have areas that are more affluent, some areas that are not as much. My goal is to build a city that works for everyone. And I specifically say that because I understand what that means. I mentioned that earlier when we talked about the challenge that some people have when, wanting certain things like making sure their home values do not decrease. But at the same time, looking at workforce housing, ensuring that the challenges we've had in Cobb County with mortgage rates and more specifically with rental rates, to make sure those stay in check. And I want to work with developers to make sure that we put policies in place to ensure that we're not pricing everyone out. And I want to have solutions to where we're looking at teachers and public servants to where they can have, or public safety officials, to make sure they can purchase homes in the Mableton area so we can move forward. So, I hope that there's certain areas where, maybe one day there's a Chinatown, there's other areas. Those are things that we can do.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Same question to you, Mr. Carmen.
Yeah, so I mean, I think with this new city, we can't just, in the effort of progress, leave people behind, right? Everybody's included in this vision. Everybody should be included in this vision. And to me, that's a multifaceted approach. And it's the importance of having an economic and community developer director that comes in and be a part of the city staff that helps go after grants and putting together the zoning and planning enforcement that feeds into the vision of the city. With that comes a couple foundational things that we have to be good at, and that's partnering with Cobb County and the DOT to make sure that we have public transportation that's easily accessible and safe and readily available for everyone in this city to be able to have access, to be able to get to those jobs, to be able to get to those locations that are new restaurants and things like that. So our transportation has to be improved. Again, this goes back to the core infrastructure. And as mayor, that's what I want to focus on in this 4-year term, is building this city correctly so that we are set up for the future that will feed into that long-term vision that all people are a part of.
Thank you so much. And same question to you, Ms. Long.
Yes, my goal as mayor would be to make, again, Mableton the most family-friendly city in Georgia. As part of this, we have to protect the homeowner and we have to create pathways to home ownership. With that in mind, I would definitely support affordable housing options that accommodate larger families. We need socioeconomic diversity along with other forms of diversity in our city, and we have to protect that. Also, going back to that transition piece, I would like somebody on our transition advisory board to be from that Georgia State Economic Development Authority. Have those business leaders who are, willing to help and attract businesses to our area that can offer those jobs to our residents and future residents.
Thank you so very much, all of you, for your answers. Dante?
All right. So next question is, the community is asking, how do you plan on balancing the promise of a city light model against the requests of citizens to do much more? There we go. Sorry, I think I had a technical difficulty. Okay, so we'll start with Ms. Long with that question, then let me know if you need me to repeat it.
Okay. Yes, it's a reason why, the people who came up with the initial charter for the city wanted that city light model. They wanted community engagement. They wanted community involvement. They wanted to have a voice. They didn't want a top heavy government. They wanted, local control, but still be able to talk to their representative. And within keeping that model, I still think, and I'm going to keep going back to this, that it's important that we have that advisory team so that we're making the proper steps to put the city in the best position to keep that light model, to spend responsibly, to save money, and to create paths for us to be that family-friendly city.
Thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Carmen next. Same question.
Yeah, so I think when we're looking at the core services, to me, first of all, I'm going to focus on planning and zoning, code enforcement, and parks and rec. I'm not going to suggest that we take on trash in the first 2 years. So secondly, a lot of problems outside of those services, and that's the reason why the cityhood was really being pushed for. Now, again, I voted against cityhood originally because it's not that I disagree that those challenges aren't there. So we need to continue to work with Cobb County, form partnerships with them, and make sure that there's community awareness for some of the services that are out there. But then also going after grants that can help assist this community and lift us up in the areas that we need help. And so that community development, economic development leader for our team is going to be the big focal on driving those changes that we need outside of just these core services. So that way we're not throwing a bunch of new taxes at the community to offer additional services and solve all the problems. We can also leverage nonprofits. Nonprofits are a big source of help and resource in our community. So we form those partnerships with them as well.
Thank you, Mr. Carmen. And Mr. Owens, same question.
Sure, thank you. The four services that's been talked about, I believe that they were chosen for a very specific reason. It allows us to have the greatest amount of influence and impact change with the smallest amount of financial outlay, right, which is the burden to place on our budget. Through code enforcement and planning, parks and recreation, and sanitation, we have the ability to truly transform what Mableton currently looks like, all for the better. And again, we can do that without a heavy outlay of hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. So that was done specifically on purpose to give us an opportunity to be able to start shaping what we all want this city to look like, to be able to start cleaning up areas where we need to, and be able to start building communities around our parks, to be able to do the things we want to see, and then later be able to look at what those opportunities are. Once we're able to get a strong footing, once we're able to build a larger commercial tax base, once we're able to gather more federal funding to come in, then we can start looking at other things. But it was very purposeful. The reason this law was built the way it was to give us the best opportunity for success. And I want to make sure that happens. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. And same question to you, Mr. Murphy.
Yes, thank you for that. I think the four legs of the stool, if you will, that have been selected are ideally. And I think that it's about excellence. Let's be the best there is in those respective areas. In the case of code enforcement and zoning, there are opportunities there that can move Mapleton to the forefront. In terms of this solid waste, in the time of sustainability and waste to resources, we could be taking advantage of that. So I think before looking at or even considering other items, let's be the best we can be in those four areas. And I support wholeheartedly City Light. And I think that's what people want. They want to know that they have the able to see the results of what they want in the community.
Thank you for those answers. Joel, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, I think at this point that will bring us to the end of our program. I hate to call time, but I'm sure all of you would like to probably get to rest yourselves. And I want to thank each one of our candidates on this evening for the time that you've spent to provide your thoughtful responses and answers to the questions that have been asked through us from the community as a whole and the future voters. So we very much appreciate that. Again, I want to thank Ms. Janine Ebler, who of course is the director for Cobb County elections and registration, for her taking time out for her public service that she commits to all of the voters of Cobb County. Want to thank our partners at the Austell Community Taskforce, of course, who always are wonderful and awesome to work with. Thank you to the folks like Chandrika Williams and Sam Colbreth, who make this program possible with their IT support and timekeeping support, which is very instrumental in making this program successful. And of course, I want to thank you, the members of the audience, who took the time to listen and try to educate yourselves and listen to these particular persons who want to represent you, whether as city council members or as a mayor. And again, by way of repetition, we want to make sure that we encourage all of you, if you're going to participate, today is the last day to register to vote, to February 21st. This is it. Today is it. The 27th of February, 6 days from now, is the first day of early voting, and the actual election date is March 21st. You heard the ways in which you could participate to vote, whether by absentee early voting or voting on election day. And you also heard Ms. Ever talk about whether you could check if you're not sure if you're in the seat of Mableton. You can either call her office or you can check the My Voter page to make sure that you are indeed in the district or in the city. And we also would recommend that you go to either the ACT website or our website at Mableton Improvement Coalition to look on the videos that you can see for some of the candidates who have submitted videos in conjunction with our organizations, so that you can watch them explain their positions on various issues and present themselves to you, in addition to what you've heard this evening. Again, thank you so much to all of you for participating, being part of this. We strongly urge you to make sure you go out and vote. Again, we are nonpartisan, both ACT and MIC. We do not support political candidates. We do not support political parties. Our only interest is in pushing this out to you to be civically engaged and educated, make informed decisions as voters. But again, thank you very, very much for this. this opportunity to speak to you tonight and have the candidates get on here. And thank you again to all of them for participating, no matter which district they were in or which mayoral candidate was on the dais this evening. And without further ado, I will turn this over to you, Dante, to provide additional comments.
Thank you, Joel. So again, first and foremost, thank you to Chandrika for the IT support, because it was a lot of effort behind the scenes to get this up and running. Thank you, Sam Colbert, for making sure that we stayed on time, even though we are running a little bit over now. But we thank you for keeping us on time and keeping the candidates within the designated timeframes. Thank you, Mableton Improvement Coalition, the entire organization, for your tireless commitment to the community. And thank you guys for always being good partners. Most importantly, we thank you, the community, for attending this evening. We thank the candidates as well, but we thank you, the community, for attending. We thank the candidates for putting themselves out there and being open and willing to discuss their platform or their issues, or where they stand on certain issues that pertain to you guys in the community. We thank them for doing that, and we thank you for being engaged. Again, like I said before, you could have been doing a lot of different things tonight. We know that, Mardi Gras, I think it started, I guess it's tonight. You could have been doing a lot of different things, but you chose to be here. And for that, commend you. We commend you for that. Pat yourselves on the back for that. Ultimately, the goal is for you to be a more educated and more informed voter. So when you go to the polls, you are now in the position to make an educated decision. One thing that I would definitely say is this forum was not intended to be basically the end all be all for any candidate's platform. It was simply designed to introduce you to the candidates and some of the issues that they support or don't support. As you can see, we could have done this for a couple more hours, just having conversations with these candidates. If you submitted a question and you didn't hear that question, or there was something pressing on your mind or your heart that you didn't hear mentioned, we highly encourage you to reach out to any of those candidates. I'm sure they will make themselves available to you in the community, but we recommend that you reach out to those candidates and have the conversations with them, so that way you better understand who they are, what they stand for, and what their vision is for Mableton and for your districts. So again, thank you. And also I think a little bit of housekeeping. If there is a runoff, expect to see us again. And also be informed, if I'm not mistaken, there we have the Taste of Mableton coming up on April 15th. So that's right around tax time. So that'll be something that you can do to kind of let your hair down. So be on the lookout for that. I'm pretty sure
It'll be a lot more fun than taxes.
Yeah, a lot more fun. So be on the lookout for that. I'm pretty sure Mick is going to put that out there. So you can check their website and their social media pages, both ACT and Mick. It'll be put out there. We're not hard to find on Facebook and YouTube and so on and so forth. So please do yourself a favor, look out there, look out for that. And we definitely want to see you guys in the community. We want to see you at the Taste of Mableton. But good luck to all the candidates on your campaign trail. We will see you on the 21st. And again, early voting starts in 6 days. So we'll see you then. But with that being said, we will turn you guys loose. Have a good evening. Good luck. See you at the polls.
Have a great night.